Hi everyone, welcome back. I thought I'd do a quick video just to show you how I am now using my Tonic Studio binders. I have every third kit, craft kit, Tonic craft kit, you will get a binder, and the idea is to use the little folder that your stamps and dies come in the kit. The idea is that you can then pop them into this little binder, and about 3 or 4 will fit into this. It's about a 1-inch binder. But I store my stamps and my dies in a completely different way. So I kept the binders because they're really nice, sturdy little binders. They're just A5 ones, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with them, and so I thought I would now share that with you because I finally figured this out. Now, as the title should suggest, or have some inkling towards, this is now how I'm storing my stencils. Now, I've spent the longest time trying to work out how to actually store those bad boys, because they're kind of that tool, that craft tool that you want to be able to grab quickly as you're working on a project, or that you know, want sort of close by so that it's easy to get to as well. And I, excuse me, the last time before this, the way I was storing it was within my stamp storage. So my dies are completely separate, and then within my stamps I was then putting the stencils and my embossing folders. So embossing folders will be the next the next task to figure out the best way to store those so that I've got better access to them and all that, or easier access. But this I'm really chuffed with. These are 1-inch binders. You'll see in a minute how full this one is already, and every third one I get another binder, so I can eventually have one for just Christmas or one for just Halloween or whatever. So I just wanted to share this with you, and also just a note that these are A5 binders. So I bought A5 pockets, so the plastic wallets. I'll show you that in a second. This is kind of noisy. Or plastic sleeves, maybe that's a better way to say it. And what I did was I did actually destroy about 3 of them, trying to figure out the best way to make this work for any of the 6x6, which is a standard sort of size stencil, and finding a way to actually make that work within this binder. A5 binders and A5 plastic sleeves here in the UK is a super cheap way to store stuff, but A5 is slightly narrower than a 6x6 stencil, so they don't typically fit in there. Some of them may, but a lot of them I was finding they don't. So I've come up with a way to rectify that, which I'll show you in a second. The other thing is I have a couple, no, just one, that is like almost an A5 sort of size stencil set, but it's I still made that work in here, but I only have the one, so it's fine. If I need to replace the sleeve, it's not a big deal, because it's really inexpensive to do. Now, the reason I decided to do this, one is because I had these binders, perfect, and 2 is because I have looked at the 6x8 albums and the plastic sleeves that go into that. Now those are great because you can have the 6x8 size plastic sleeve, which will fit your 6x6 and whatever up to 8 inches, they'll fit in there, or smaller of course. And you could also get ones that were sort of divided up, so you could put smaller stencils, say 4 smaller stencils within that pocket. But honestly, the cost for me to do that, and I think there's more than, I think I've got about 40 or 50 stencils in total. Some of them are part of a set, you'll see that in a bit. So I didn't really want to spend that amount of money when it's storage. That's, you know, I have this thing about spending a lot of money on storage, and I had the binders, so I wanted to make this work. So I'm going to stop waffling now, and I'm going to show you what I actually did. So the binders we knew we had, because I already had them, they come in the kits. And if you want to go and grab a Tonic Studio craft kit, they're awesome. definitely go and check that out. And what I bought was, this is going to be a little noisy, sorry, I'll just grab one. I bought these A5 sized plastic wallets, right? They're just like you would store documents in. Same thing, just a smaller version of say an A4, which is the sort of paper size, if you like, standard paper size. And what I would, like I said, this width is too narrow for a 6x6 stencil or anything that sort of width across there. So I will show you what I did with that and what this blue mat is for. I also, just to save the hassle, and honestly it wasn't that expensive either, I bought a pack of 100, there were 100 of the sleeves. I think they were about £6. And the same with the A5 paper. This is, I think, 120 GSM. Yeah, I think it's 120 GSM. There's 10 different colours, and I also went for a brighter colour pack. There are multiple colours in there. Reason being that your stencil will show up a bit better. So that's just what I went with. If you use too pale, like I was thinking pastels would work, but actually it's too pale, you're going to struggle to see that, and I'm sorry, but I'm getting old, so so I need a bit more definition when I'm looking at it. So if you really needed to, white copy paper cut in half, just cut your A4 in half, perfect, that'll work too, but I can't see that contrast, and it doesn't work for me anymore. So also, to save the hassle of cutting up 9,000 bits of paper, I just went with a multi-pack of bright colours. So you'll see those in a bit as well. So that's what this package is. So now I'll just keep them all together. So what I did to create the pockets to make them fit was I happen to have, this is a really old, it used to be an A3. So if you imagine 4 times the size, A3, a UK A3, like craft mat, like this thing. But it got damaged, and then I just decided to cut it up because I was trying it in my die cutting machines and all that kind of fun stuff. So it happened to be the cleaner of the 4 pieces I had, and so it wasn't too warped or anything, so it just was just handy. So what I did was the rounded corner that I have here actually worked out perfect, because this corner, although it doesn't go into the pocket right in the corner, I could then use the depth from there to there as my guideline. I'll explain that in a minute. And then this mark here is 6.5 inches from this end. Right, so what I did was I put it in the sleeve, and thankfully it fit, but if not, I was just going to trim that because, like I say, this thing was so messed up anyway. Popped it in my sleeve, and then all I did was I knew excuse me, I knew that this was my 6.5 inch mark, and the reason I did 6.5 inches is because most standard size 6 inch stencils are 6 inches. So, sorry, that's like Captain Obvious, but yeah. So I wanted enough of a gap so that I wasn't having to almost like force it into the pocket. I wanted there to be a little bit of space, but I didn't want to do it all the way to the end here, otherwise the stencil itself is just going to flop around too much, which obviously you want to kind of keep it somewhat sturdy. So 6.5 inches was fine. So I've pushed this all the way to the bottom here, and on these sleeves you have this like perforated kind of detailing to close it, and then along this edge where this white piece that goes into your binder, that's also, there's a bit of that ribbing along that edge. So what I did was it just happened to be this sort of size, that sort of depth there, so I used this line here as my cutting line, used a ruler and a craft knife, and just cut not on the edge here because I don't want to open it at the bottom, but just from say the corner there, and just cut all the way up to my 6.5 inch, and that is enough gap to get the stencil from the side. So it won't go in this top end, it'll go in from the side, but that worked perfectly. And obviously anything smaller or narrower than this went in just fine. So that's kind of that's become my stencil tool now. So I then had to decide how I was going to store them, like as in, in categories or by manufacturer. So at the moment I have no extra labels or anything in here. I just have the stencils, but they're in alphabetical order by company, and I know where they are, if that makes sense. Lawn Fawn, of course, landed up in another folder, in the other folder, but that's fine. So I'm just going to open one of them up and show you. So now we have, this is like Concord and Ninth, and by doing this sideways sleeve, I'll take one out and show you in a minute on a better contrasting one. By putting them in the side here, I could still get a smaller one in the back. So later on down the line, I may decide to put these by like theme, like Halloween, Christmas, whatever, spring. But at the moment, this is working fine for me. So, but I do have that option. If I do that, then I have the option at the back for smaller ones to go in. But to be honest, it's so inexpensive. I'm okay with one per thing, but you could easily put two in here, or at least two. You might be able to do this on the other side, thinking about it, and have two 6x6 in here. You should be able to do the same thing. So I basically have the paper just in the rainbow order it came in. So let's just see. I'll just find one that's a bit more contrasty. This one, right. So what I have is the slit. Let me take this out. So the slit runs, like I say, from here. And I know you can't see this very well at the moment. From here to the 6.5 inch mark. So it's just a gap there. And that allows me to slide that in and out. But it also, if I go up to the, that's where the opening stops. It's not too floppy, if that makes sense. It's not going to sort of flap about too much. And also it creates enough at the top here so that it's not going to just fall out. So that's what I have. That's what I've done. So I have all of them in here. So these are my MFTs. These are some Newton's Nook, which I love. This is a multiple, like there's multiple layers here. Now on this one I didn't cut the thing because these all fit in the pocket itself. So I didn't need to cut that one open. So you won't need to cut all of them. It's just the ones that will not fit that width. And they're all in there. And then, oh, this is not this. Who's this? This is Pink Fresh Studio. I can't talk. Plaid, I think is the name of the company. There's another one of theirs. Who's this? Oh, this is Pretty Pink Posh. And again, these are multiple. There's 3 stencils in there. There's 3 in this set as well. So these ones go in from the side. I think you can see it here. This is a Stampin' Up! One, and these are actually wider than 6 inches. So these are, you know, these are even wider than the other ones. So they come out further, but they still fit within that thing. So all the Stampin' Up! Ones. And then I have, like, here's a smaller one of a Simon Says, one that came from one of the kids, so I've just popped it in there. And then again, all the Simon Says ones that are the 6x6 ones. Again, these are multiples. This has got 4. So there's 4 stencil layers in there. This is the bigger one that I was talking about. So this one I had to cut. It's got about 1/4 inch left that isn't cut at the top there. Otherwise, again, it would just flop out. So again, this worked out just fine. I just cut just enough to get that and slide that in the sideways. And there's 3 layers of stencil there, but these are kind of a much bigger stencil. These ones, which are kind of narrow, but they're long, they do stick out the top, but that's okay. They fit in the pocket. So that's that first folder. And that's pretty chocker. That's got about 40 odd, not counting the actual, the ones with multiples in there. That's just counting the fact that there are 40 pages. I think it's about 40. So this one, because I suddenly thought about my Lawn Fawn ones, because, you know, I forgot. I then have these little template things in here. So these are, I think, the everyday ones, the seasonal ones, the car ones, and then I have my one and only Tonic Studios one, and a lot of them have the names on it, so it's easy to know what they are. I mean, I know my stuff, so I kind of know anyway. This is the only one I left the packaging, a bit of the packaging in there, just so I know what it is, because I forget. So these are where my Tim Holtz ones start. So I have these ones. These are the little mini stencils. I actually have these in, they each have a little number in the bottom, and I have these and the larger ones. I actually have them in number order. So that could prove tricky later on. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. But you can see how it's just easier. Even, I know you can't see it on the lighter ones on camera, but even the lighter ones, it is easier to see that stencil. I didn't think that black would work either, because like for the Stampin' Up ones, the stencil material is almost like a dark brown, so you're not really going to see it. But even this one, in real life, you can actually still see that pretty well. So these are all the minis. And then I put my Tim Holtz masks in here as well. So this is why I'm not sure if I'm going to keep them like this or put them into like categories and stuff. And then the bigger ones, again, they stick out the top a bit. Doesn't bother me, but they're in number order. And these ones are just one to a page, whereas the Tim Holtz ones, I actually put one on each side. And these ones obviously didn't need me to cut them. So that's what I've done with my Tonic Studios craft kit binders. Let me know in the comments what you guys have done with yours, and or if you're using them as they were intended. And yeah, I will see you in the next one, guys. I hope this was helpful. I hope, if anything else, just as a nice way to store your stencils. So until next time, guys, bye for now.